I was thinking that as we begin our time together on a day like today with so much going on around us, it might be helpful, it might be important for us to begin by naming the elephant in the room, the thing that is making us uncomfortable, squirming in our seats, not sure if we're allowed to talk about this at church. Jesus does not sound very nice here, does he? He ignores a desperate mother. He calls her a female dog. I'm going to let that sit for just a second. Because actually it's worse than that. The language that he uses is a little female dog, a sort of dogette. And I'm not sure that's better. He seems snarky and then astonished that she can actually stand up for herself and talk back. It's hard to avoid the conclusion that Jesus here is not very nice. This is not necessarily the kind of person that we would want to spend time around. And are we allowed to say that in church? Are we allowed to talk about that? And what do we do with the fact that Jesus here doesn't seem very nice? And how does a reading like this shape us for life in God's world today? So Jesus and his disciples have headed out of town. They've gone about 25 to 50 miles to the northwest of their usual haunts. They're up in modern-day Lebanon in the Middle East, around the cities of Tyre and Sidon. And someplace I read that this was sort of like the Riviera in their time. This is where people would go for vacation. Beautiful cities with thriving commerce across the whole Mediterranean. And they've gone outside of the boundaries of Israel, so they're foreigners. They are not among their own people, and we see that as they get accosted by this desperate mother. Matthew tells us she's a Canaanite. And that word draws us all the way back in our Bible, back to the book of Joshua, which is way toward the front cover of our Bibles. And we remember that the Canaanites, that name, those were the folks that were marked for extermination. Guess how they responded to that? They did not like being marked for extermination, and they said no. And so there has been fighting between the Canaanites and the Israelites, which is Jesus and his disciples, for 1,000 years. And Jesus and his disciples are the outsiders. They're the foreigners there, and they get accosted by this desperate mother, and even worse than that, she's a screamer. She shouts, she will not leave them alone. Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me, and she won't quit. She is a desperate mother, but listen to her language. Listen to how she talks to Jesus. Oh my goodness, she says, have mercy on me. We say that in church during our services. During our prayers in just a little bit, we are going to say, Lord, in your mercy. Those are the same language. On the Sundays when we include the Kyrie at the front end of our service, we sing her words, Lord, have mercy on us. She sounds like us. She calls Jesus Lord throughout this whole reading. Even when Jesus seems kind of snarky, she keeps calling him Lord. It's a term of respect. Why we use that language. She sounds like us. And the title that she uses for Jesus, Lord, Son of David, that is the name in the Hebrew Scriptures for Israel's Messiah. She knows who she's talking to. She knows who he is. In fact, she's got it a little better than the disciples because, man, they take forever to figure out who Jesus is. Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is out of her mind. She's possessed by a terrible demon. Have mercy on me. And Jesus doesn't say a word. This is one of those times when I really wish that the authors of our Gospels gave us more detail, that they had written it like a novel, because it would help me so much to know how Jesus reacts. Who is he looking at? Is he looking at her as she pleads for mercy? What is the look on his face? Does he look disgusted? Is he even listening? Or is it possible that he's looking at his disciples, even as she's talking? Because just a little bit ago, right before they headed out of town, Jesus was just teaching them that the things that keep us from each other, the things that keep us from God, are not the outward bits. It's not how we wash our hands or how much of that hand sanitizer that's giving us all cancer. Okay, I don't know that it is, but it sure seems like it to me. It seems fishy. That it doesn't matter how much we wash ourselves. That's not what makes us right with God. And it's not about whether we do the right things or behave in the right way or associate with the right people. It's none of that. He says the things that separate us from God are the stuff on the inside. It's all of those things that then lead themselves to how we treat each other. It's those impulses inside that shape our words and how we talk to each other. And it's who we are that separates us from God. And here's this mother who's got something remarkable on the inside. She knows who Jesus is better than those disciples do. And so is it possible Jesus is waiting for the disciples to step in here? He's perhaps looking at them to see if they finally are going to get what he's been teaching. That maybe they will step up and stand for this woman who has no authority, no right to talk to Jesus, but shows so clearly that she's got something on the inside that is right with God. Is it possible the disciples that Jesus is waiting for the disciples to get it? They don't get it, do they? In fact, they're whiny. Send her away. She's annoying. She's obnoxious. She won't quit. Jesus, send her away. She's really bothering us. No, the disciples don't get it. But notice what she does. This remarkable, gutsy, uppity woman steps closer. She comes to Jesus and her language changes. No longer is she shouting from a distance, but she comes to Jesus, and it said, our translation said she knelt before him, but the real word is she worshiped him. She gets down on her knees. She knows she has no right to expect anything from Jesus, but she knows who he is. And she says, I know what you just said, but I'll just bet that the God that you serve and you've been teaching about has crumbs left over. I will just bet that your God has enough to share even with me. I'll just bet that you have enough for my daughter. She falls to her knees. She worships Jesus, and she says, Lord, help me. Please, Lord, help me. And I can't know this for sure, but it sure seems to me that Jesus gets changed by this. Because up to this point in Matthew, Jesus has been very careful about where he goes, who he talks with, who deserves his ministry. And from this point on in Matthew, there is a turn. The crowds start to expand to include people outside of Israel. He starts to welcome people beyond the borders of what was considered pure and deserving. And as he turns to Jerusalem, beyond it to the cross, and beyond that to the grave, and then beyond that to when he rises again and gives us our marching orders, by that point, at the end of Matthew, Jesus tells us that we are to go to all nations. That Jesus' family includes all colors, all shapes, all creeds, all persuasions, all politics, all everything. They are all part of his kingdom and all welcome there. Jesus sends us to all, no exceptions. By the time we get our marching orders, our command becomes go to all, no exceptions, no limits, no borders allowed. So what are we to do with a reading like this at a time like this? How does this shape us to be God's people in the world today? Well, like you, I have been overwhelmed this week by all the things that have been in the news. Like you, my heart has been heavy as I watched the sins of racism and white supremacy surface openly into our nation. Like you, I have hated the violence that has been around us, both in Charlottesville and also elsewhere. The two officers in Kissimmee, Florida, who were shot this week, the stabbing attack in Finland, the attacks in Burkina Faso, in Barcelona. I have hated to see this, and my heart has been broken, and I know yours have been too. My stomach has been churning to be watching all of this and to know this is my nation and my country. And like you, I haven't known what to do from here in Valparaiso. And just like you, I keep thinking about our own town. It was only just a couple weeks ago somebody painted swastikas here in Valparaiso, just down by where some of our members live. Swastikas here in Valparaiso. And we have our VU students coming back into town, moving in this weekend, and I can't help but remember last year when they were moving in, and there were a series of incidents of people yelling hateful things from car windows at stop signs at them. That was here in my town. And I have to tell you that for the past several months, as I've been driving past our local synagogue, Temple Israel, I've been watching to see if the graffiti has shown up there yet. And part of that is that I know if I can see it first, I can make just a couple calls to you, and together we can be the first ones on the scene, erasing the effects of hatred here in our town. But the reality of the news today is that hatred and the bullies are not just in Charlottesville or Barcelona or Finland or Burkina Faso. The hatred and the bullies are here. And I have hated the fact that I look like those men that were marching with tiki torches. In fact, they even dress like me. I'm going to be changing my wardrobe, just so you know. It has broken my heart to recognize that I also have grown up in this same stew, this same soup that allowed these men to be radicalized. And I hate that, as I know you do too. To recognize that those same things are gathered around me too, around all of us. We're all swimming in the same soup. And I haven't known what to do. And maybe you feel that way too. And the good news that our reading brings for us today, and the good news I bring for you, is that as Lutherans, as the inheritors of a 500-year-old tradition, we're actually really good at knowing how to respond to this. We've been practicing for 500 years. In our church, we've been practicing since 1970. And we do it every single Sunday because it requires practice. When we encounter sin in us and in others, and remember, sin is not what we do. Sin is who we are. And it is in and around and all of us. It's that whole soup that gathers us in and that shapes us. Sin is in us. And as Lutherans, we know whenever we encounter sin, we know what to do. We know that the cross right there is for sin. The bread and wine we receive is for sin. And the promise of Jesus, the promise of God, is forgiveness for sin. And we know it's not up to our earning. And so as Lutherans, we know whenever we encounter sin, especially sin that we know is also in us, we do the same thing. For 500 years, we're coming up on 50 years here, always we do the same thing. We fall to our knees. We worship Jesus. And we say, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. And then we get up and we follow Jesus until we fall down again. Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. Will you pray with me? Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. For we are yours, the people of your gathering, the people of your redeeming. We are your flock, and you are our shepherd. Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. Jesus, we love you, and we long to serve you. We want so much to be your people in the world and your church, your body in this world. Give us wisdom. Give us courage. Give us faith. And when we fall, because we will, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. Bless us, Jesus, so we can be your people in this world. And when we fall, gather us once again. Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. Amen.